welcome to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook. For this episode, I'm joined by Beatings Are in the Body. Beatings Are in the Body is Erica Angel, Rasheen Adams and Peggy Lee. The self-titled album Beatings Are in the Body is out now. So Rasheen Adams is a Vancouver-based pianist, composer and improviser. Then there's Erica Angel, who's based in Montreal, and she's an experimental vocalist and composer. And then also from Vancouver is Peggy Lee, a renowned cellist, composer and improviser. And there is a very raw dimension to their music. They describe it as an investigation of how memories, pain, and a spectrum of emotions are stored in and continue to be carried by our physical bodies. This is not an easy listen, but it's well worth it. Each of the players contributes compositions, but there's a seamlessness to this ensemble playing. What you're listening to now is Unfetter from Beatings Are in the Body. And I hope you enjoy listening to my conversation with at least two members of the trio. So welcome to the latest episode of Harmonious World, and I am joined by Erica Angel and Rasheen Adams from Beatings Are in the Body. Welcome to Harmonious World.
Thank you so much.
So you've got a new album out, self-titled, called Beatings Are in the Body. I cannot go any further without asking you about the title. Who wants to explain that?
I think you should do that, Rasheen.
Sure thing. Well, it came from a poet named Megan McAneely. When Erica and I were first introduced to each other, it was for a concert. It was kind of like a blind date for improvisers. We were set to meet on stage, but we had so much lead time before that we got on the phone and started introducing ourselves, and like the artists we're like, what are you thinking about lately? What are you thinking about lately? And one thing that came up that we both agreed was really intriguing was this idea of how the body stores memories, traumas, experiences, and the process of working through that. And that reminded me of a chapbook by a dear friend and poet named Megan McAneely. And so we kind of use that as source material for our first concert. And from that, we kind of made 2 or 3 co-compositions and kind of used the poetry as improvisation source material as well.
Right. What did the poet mean? What was she talking about?
It's kind of talking about a universal experience that humans have, and how we metabolize life, like how we take one experience and transform it into an identity piece or a strategy for getting through life that changes throughout life when you realize you don't need that strategy anymore.
Okay. Your album is it's kind of not an easy listen in a good way. So I found that I had to listen to each of the tracks several times to kind of see where you were coming from. And there's interesting grooves going on and interesting interplay between the instruments. Can you talk, Erica, do you want to talk about the kind of instrumentation that you use?
Sure. There's myself, who is a vocalist, and I often sometimes process my voice through a pedal board where there's lots of different textures of possibilities and availabilities. Then there's Roisin, who plays for this record piano and sometimes prepared piano and Wurlitzer, and Peggy Lee, who plays cello. And we all compose music too. I write a lot of poetry and songs, and so does Peggy and Roisin. So when we finally, started working on this album, we all just brought in pieces and worked through that. And we have like very kind of different expressions, I would say, but the different expressions kind of blended so naturally, and we were also, it was such an easy collaboration in many ways that all the voices were just allowed the space that we need. And how that becomes an harder or like more intriguing listening, I think it lies in our interest probably to create music like that, where there's constantly new doors to open and where there's new things to discover in music.
The title is so visceral, that you don't know what to expect. And something that I kind of found intriguing was that the expression of that in the music on the album is gentle, but many things. It's not just one thing. It's multidimensional, but it can be gentle, it can be strong, but and there can be a lot of dissonance, but there can be a lot of harmony. So I think we kind of showed kind of naturally, like Erica said, it was such a natural process for us to collaborate that through that natural, like bringing together of ideas, we kind of came up with these juxtaposing ideas that just because it says one thing doesn't mean it's one thing. And that one thing also includes the binary and everything in between.
Yeah. It's interesting you were talking about the dissonance and the harmony, because I think that's one of the things that they seem to sort of grow out of each other. Those two things that
very much.
Yeah. Go on then, Erica. Do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's the two qualities and everything between, like Roisin said too, that are the most interesting in music. If I'm just, if I can just lean back and not be challenged when listening to music, or at a concert or record or recording, I get easily restless and want to leave. I want to like be challenged in some way, and I find that those qualities in music are important for it to be like a complete artwork, in my opinion. And that's what I love to listen to myself and love to express. And I think that we all three agree on that. And sometimes like Peggy, she wrote a very beautiful piece, and then all of a sudden, can you do something really distorted that sounds completely opposite to this on top of this, please? And I'm like, okay, really? And then you explore that idea, and those kind of very fluid and natural communications through our process was wonderful.
Yeah, and the output certainly shows that. I think I'm fascinated by how much of this is pre-composed and how much of it is improvised.
Yeah, there's always a bit of both happening at the same time, I think.
Okay. Right. So you come with the three of you sort of come together with ideas and then see where they develop.
Yeah, I think that there's themes in or some kind of structure. Like Peggy often came with a lot of different melodies that were like intervealed, is that the word? Like that they were weaving over each other or through each other. And Roisin, you had sometimes completely through composed piece, but then here's an improvisation that's completely free. And I brought often in like maybe more of a form structure where it starts here and ends here, and in the middle it's like this, and then on top of it is lyrics that goes kind of like this. And at this part in the lyric, you're supposed to do something like that. And then, so it's all kind of different compositional structures too. They're not at all the same, but I feel that the approach has kind of been the same through all of those compositions.
I am starting this podcast with Unfetter. I really like that. But I'd like at this point to play an extract from I Don't Want What She Has. Tell me how that piece was written and performed.
That was a piece that I brought to the table. So when I write a composition, it always starts with the lyrics, which is the text is often written over a longer period of time, but kind of in periods, still in chunks in my life. There's like, okay, now I want to write poetry, and I do that for a couple of months, and then there's lots of lines, and at the end of the day it might be that I mix them all together, or that sometimes there's one little poem that happens naturally. I think this is one of those. And then I just wanted to have the melody and the lyrics to be the repeated and only clear theme, but that it would be performed like as if the lyrical material and the melodic material would be the engine through the composition, but that anything else could happen around it. So if Roisin and Peggy are joining me and sometimes leaving me and sometimes creating an atmosphere around where this piece wants to go dynamically. But it's just, so it's pretty much a very free piece. There's just this melody and this poetry, and then everybody's free to do what they want.
But I do want something. I wake up thinking I'm dying. Will I forget completely? Not wanting anything, or will it kick back in love with nothing and with everything? I don't want what she has, but I do want something. I wake up thinking I'm dying. Will I forget completely? Not wanting anything. Oh, will it kick back in love with nothing or with everything? I don't want what she has, but I do want something.
Right, and Roisin, did you kind of get that sense of the poetry and the sense of what Erica was intending?
Yes, I think in the version that ended up on the album, I stuck to quite closely to Erica, but in other performances, gone quite wild and come back or never come back. And so it's always an adventure playing the piece, and I think the poetry is so beautiful, and it encapsulates that feeling of unrest and not being quite sure, but
Yeah.
knowing that there's something, but like accepting the uncertainty at the same time.
Right. Which brings me actually on to the next question, which is when you perform these live, are they always different?
I'd say so. The compositions are living, breathing creations with their own lives, and I mean, as a composer outside of this project as well, like it always feels like once the kids have grown up and left the house, they're out they're doing their own things in the world, and it's a beautiful thing when somebody else plays your tune, or when a composition finds its place. Because sometimes you write something, like Erica said, like you could be holding on to something in your journal for years, and then all of a sudden you find the avenue for that expression, the project for that particular composition. So yeah, it's always exciting, especially since Erica and Peggy are such amazing improvisers, to see where things are going to go, because we don't know, but we know that we don't know, and we seek solace in that. We look at each other. We can be on stage um, and get through the tune together, and each fascinating turn is another call to adventure.
Yeah. Do they all bring different things, Erica? Does each performance bring something different?
Yes, always. I mean, it's for me, it's a communication between the three of us, but also with the audience and the room and the space, that like however the vibe of that day is. And that's the most compelling and most fascinating thing I like to take part of in life, those moments where you never really know what's going to happen, and to allow yourself to not to control those moments, to like allow them to be all about connection, which demands a lot of concentration of focus from artists' sides to like establish that connection, but to allow it to be whatever it is. And I think sometimes maybe we also, like depending on how much space we leave ourselves in the performance, how many pieces that are composed that we choose to play, and how we travel from one piece to another varies from one performance to another. So there's always it's always important to leave this space where we actually can lose ourselves and connect on a very like raw and immediate way.
One of the things that I've really found interesting talking to musicians in the last 3 years, going through the pandemic, is I think it's reminded all of us of the importance of that relationship between the audience and performers. Because I think when I started, people were getting all excited about, I'm doing Zoom concerts, or I'm doing live streaming from once venues realized that they could live stream from their venues and sort of start generating income for them and for the musicians and that sort of thing. And I think everyone realized very quickly that that was fine, but it was nothing like the same as being in a room with people.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, and I think that's been one of the real learnings for all of us. Because all of us have grown up as musicians. There's the stuff you do at home and the stuff you do in the rehearsal room, and then there's the stuff that you do live in front of an audience, and they all have a very different quality.
Yeah, and there's like also this moment of, or for me, I feel like as a musician, being on stage with an audience in the room and with their energy in the air, I perform things that I would never dream of, because I've never been in this situation before, and I never expressed myself in this way, and it makes me develop vocally, or like do things or improvise new sounds that I would never have done. And when you've in front of a screen, when you actually this audience is just imagined, you don't reach those heights, and there's not that chemistry happening.
No.
And as a listener too, for the same thing, like if I see someone go through that motion on stage, it moves me
Yeah.
so much more.
Yeah, definitely. Practically, how does it work with the three of you? Because you're all in different parts of Canada, and I mean, I think Peggy's somewhere else completely, isn't she, at the moment? She's in Australia, is she?
Yeah.
So how are you getting together, and how is it just taking a lot of diary organization?
I mean, I feel because it was originally when we were first set to play together, Erica and I, it kind of started with an exchange of love letters, or not, or like ideas, really. Like I'm, such a romantic. It's just the love letters, but in a platonic sense, of course. But in terms of creation, Erica would be like, I would send her a soundbite of a piece that I was thinking about, and then she would write lyrics to it, and then she would send me lyrics, and then and with some chords or harmony suggestions, and I'd work on them on my own. So, and then with Peggy's pieces, they're so like immediate and fresh, and like some are like all completely written out and written in different ways too. That I think because we're all improvisers, we can rely on the skills that we have to ignite a spark whenever and wherever we meet. But yeah, practically, it is kind of an interesting challenge but also an excuse to like meet somewhere in the world and be like, let's play, let's get together.
Our expectations of how often we will perform might maybe, they have to be for now, like on another, it's not like we pick up any gig that happens, but we definitely have to plan it carefully, and we do too, because we really want to. So it's a lot of work and economical, challenge to do that, but it's also a passionate love for the project that makes us put in that work, which is, it's a fun collaboration.
Yeah, it sounds fantastic. So have you got any dates coming up that people can kind of put in their diaries, or where can people see you next?
Well, we're starting in Montreal this time around. We've been in Vancouver, done a couple or 3 shows. Can't remember, but this time it's going to start with a show at Suoni Paril Popolo, which is a very loved and returning festival that happens here every year in June for a whole month, with a lot of experimental music from all over the world. So that will be our first performance after the release of the album. And then we continue to Kingston, I think, but I don't know yet to the date, so I can't tell you.
No.
After that, something else in Hamilton, which is also an experimental, beautiful festival.
Okay. And where can people find out about Beatings Are in the Body?
We have a Bandcamp site.
Excellent.
And I was just working on trying to get the show dates up on that. So hopefully there will be information on that in the future.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, I shall point people there. I love Bandcamp, and I think one of the best things they did was this Bandcamp Fridays, where they make it just much more economically viable for artists, which is great.
Yeah. Which is a wonderful site.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and please say hello to Peggy next time you're talking to her.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yes.
Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to my conversation with Erica and Rasheen from Beatings Are in the Body. You can find the link to their Bandcamp page in the show notes. What you're listening to now is Rainbow from Beatings Are in the Body. Their album is out next week. Thank you for joining me once more for Harmonious World, and don't forget that you can subscribe to this podcast and receive access to a subscriber-only podcast and to a weekly email. So thank you for joining me once more for Harmonious World, and I hope you have a great week.
I don't think about space no more. Everything goes and I'm a rainbow. There's no way back, you can't heal like that. Remember how she used to think she'd get her sight back. We used to laugh at that, but also it's as if she was a girl then, and maybe always. You only have to change your life, I
Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Harmonious World. My name is Hilary Seabrook, and it's a great delight to bring this series of discussions with musicians and composers and writers and all sorts of people to you. Obviously, there's no point in having a podcast if people aren't listening, and I'm very grateful to my listeners for doing so. Thanks also to Joe English for composing and performing this new theme tune. So wherever you get your podcast, you can leave a review. You can share this with your friends and family, either as a link or on social media and that sort of thing. I'd be really grateful for that. Don't forget that you can subscribe now. There's a link wherever you get your podcasts. So have a great week, and please remember why I started this, which is just to try and make the world a little more harmonious. Thanks for listening to Harmonious World.